Talking Brazil ball, we're breaking it down.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Talking Brazil Ball, the podcast all about Brazilian football. Palmeiras pull clear at the top. Diniz gets Vasco back underway, and Grêmio slip into the relegation zone again. All of that and so much more to come in this week's Talking Brazil Ball.
It's time for paradise. We're here to stay.
Okay, so welcome everybody. Another week done. Now we're looking at match day 9 already in the Brasileirão. It's going very quickly now. I am here as always, joined by George. George, another good week. We haven't mentioned yet your snooze fest in Belo Horizonte, but I'm sure we'll get into that plenty in a few minutes, won't we?
Yeah, good evening, James. Come on, bye to you. How are you? Good, hello to everybody listening. Hello to everybody watching. Yeah, it's good to be back. Talking another week has gone, like you said, James. They come round thick and fast. We're going into double figures after this weekend of games. So yeah, the table is starting to crack on and take shape a little bit. And it's been another. Well, I say exciting. I was about to say exciting. I don't think it was a great deal of excitement. Like you said, a bit of a snooze fest again for me in Belo Horizonte. 4 of my game weeks out of the 9, I think, have been 0-0, including this one. So yeah, like you said, we'll get into it shortly, I'm sure.
Yep, it was a draw that didn't really do either team much good, although it was also not a bad result for either of them at the end of the day. But yeah, we will get on to that. In the meantime, have you got a question, George, for your quiz of the week this time?
Yeah, I have, James. I have, and we should mention this point again. We don't have any little jingles. We seem to have lost them in the system, so we're going to have to come up with some new ones, aren't we, James? We're going to have to go and ask the Talking Brazil Ball band if they can come up with something new for us for next week. But I do have a quiz for you nonetheless. And, you mentioned, James, that Grêmio find themselves in the relegation zone again. They don't seem to be able to get so much clear of it, do they, of recent times? And certainly last season, they flirted with relegation on a regular basis. Also, Sport Recife, a poor result for them this weekend, and it is bottom place that I'm focusing my quiz on this week, James. So, like I said, Sport Recife, they lost again, no wins, only 2 points on the board for them. They sit bottom of the table. But what I want to know, James, is at bottom of the table last season was Cuiabá in the end on 30 points. But how many points did they have, James, at this stage last season? That's the first question for you. The second one is, who out of the last 10 seasons have had the lowest amount of points in the Brasileirão out of the last 10 years, James? Who's finished bottom on the least amount of points, and how many points did they get? So that's your question for today. Let's see how you get on.
So what's the second question? Who's got the lowest points out of the last 10 years?
Yeah, so team, whoever finished bottom, what was the lowest points tally?
Right. Well, the first one, I think Cuiabá didn't start that badly, I don't think, last year. I think they'd have been doing better than Sport Recife after 9 games. Probably they'd have won 2, maybe 10 points.
No, they had 6 points.
No.
They just beaten Fortaleza 5-0, which was a really strange result, I think, in the 9th game. But yeah, they only had 6 points.
All right, fair enough. So that would still put them third bottom this time. So on course for relegation. Who's got the lowest points total? I mean, it's difficult to say, isn't it? We've only been following the Brasileirão for a little over a season now, and a little bit loosely before then. So over the last 10 years, I couldn't really even have a guess, I don't think. I mean, the ones last year, I don't think would have been the lowest. Sport Recife are probably going to challenge it, but I have no idea, really. Even a guess would probably be really quite difficult to do. So I don't know, Curitiba.
No, in
Yeah, sure.
2021, in the 2021 edition, James, of the Brasileirão, Chapecoense finished bottom of the table on 15 points.
Well, of course, Chapecoense with the team who had the air disaster. The whole team were wiped out by a plane crash, but I think that was quite a way before then. To be fair, although it might not have been. So I mean, no, it was 2016 the plane crash. So yeah, it was some time after that. But yeah, they obviously a famous club because of that. Well, I mean, really, really tragic disaster, which killed most of the team and the staff and everything. So, yeah, another rough statistic there for Chapecoense. Okay, well, yeah, some good stats there. Unfortunately, we can't play us off with the jingle as you mentioned, George. So, we'll just have to keep it moving straight into the games of the week. And we will start with your one there, I think.
I need to run down the fixtures, James, first.
Oh shit! Yeah, of course you do. Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. It's we're all over the place without those interludes. Yeah, of course. So before we get into it, yeah, George, you run down the 10 fixtures that we had in the last game week. It does seem a while ago since they were on now, but they did happen over the last few days.
They did, and yes, it would be a pleasure of mine, James, to let everybody know what the scores were. Match week 9, like I said, round 9 of the 2025 Brasileirão started on Saturday the 17th of May with Ceará 2, Sport Recife 0, and Vasco 3, Fortaleza 0. Into Sunday the 18th then, Sao Paulo 2, Grêmio 1, Bahia 2, Vitória 1, Corinthians 1, Santos 0, Juventude 1, Fluminense 1, Flat 0, Fogo 0, RB Bragantino 1, Palmerias 2, and then Monday the 19th, in Belo Horizonte, Cruizero 0, Galo 0, and Inter 1, Mirassol 1.
Yeah, so another poor result for Inter as well, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But as I said there, first let's get into that snooze fest then in Belo Horizonte. As I mentioned there, George, really, I mean, we talked it up last week, of course, and then it goes and ends up as a 0-0. But both teams came into the game in pretty good form, really. Galo obviously have shaken off that early season struggles and are now in pretty good form. And Cruizero, of course, are flying high up in third now in the table, having overtaken Red Bull Bragantino. So, do you think a point was fair? And who do you think will be the happier of the two teams at the end of this one?
You know what, James? It's my team, Galo, who've got to be the happiest of the two. I mean, going to away from home, it's a really difficult kind of place to go. The Governador, isn't it? The stadium, the Cruzeiro stadium, and it's an away team, a derby game. You're always going to be happy with the draw. Really, I think Kuka was kind of happy with it, the way they played. Cruzeiro, I think Hardim was quite surprised at how defensive Galo's approach to this game was, James. But yeah, Cruzeiro shaded it. They had more possession, expected XG of 1.45 compared to Galo's 0.23, which was Galo were not a threat at all in this game. It was all Cruzeiro. They were peppering the goal, but not many shots on target. Really, it was a bit of a dull game, really, in the end, by all accounts, James. And I think Galo probably the happier of the two, being the away side. It was raucous atmosphere, over 61,000 people in the stadium on Sunday evening. It would be in Brazil, late, early hours of Monday morning here. And I think it just boiled down to a 0-0 draw. They both cancelled each other out. It was nearly, by the sound of it, attack against defence, really. And I think it goes a bit again, it says a lot about the game, James, when, the people are talking about incidents such as, plastic bottles or plastic cups being thrown at the pitch at players. You know, there was one incident with Hulk, again, of all people. I mean, he loves it, to be fair. They were throwing plastic cups. He went to take a corner. Cruizero fans lobbing plastic cups at him, and he made a joke of it, and he went to sip it, you know, and he said, "Oh, I'll have a beer now." And he had it on an interview afterwards. I think, you know, he was having a laugh and a joke. We know he likes to, you know, he's very heavily, you know, he's very heavy in the media. Also, in the media was Caio Jorge. He was speaking after the game, James, and he said he was riling. I think he was fueling the fire here. He said, "We played football. We crushed them in the first half and in the second half." Well, Caio, a 0-0 draw. The game ended 0-0, mate. You know, you might have crushed them in the game, but you didn't score any goals for it. So I think he's trying to rile Galo up there. And in response, of course, Hulk had something to say about it, as he always seems to do. The word crush is very strong, he said. It could be that he is superior or was superior to his opponent, something like that. But that's what happens. Sometimes there are players who wear certain shirts and end up becoming characters. We always try to respect Cruizero. It's a great institution, and I'll never be disrespectful. I'll always defend Atletico, which is my favourite team, the team I give my life for. But I'll never be disrespectful to the opposition. So, you know, again, it's more media talk, which just says how the game went. It was pretty poor, really. And, you know, but both teams are in decent form. Galo, incidentally, have gone through in the Copa do Brazil overnight. They beat Moringa, lower league side Moringa, 4-0 in the end. It was a 2-2 draw in the first leg. Cruizero, incidentally, James, they play this evening. I think they are ahead in the first leg. It's a 2-0 advantage they take to Villanova this evening. So we'll wait and see on that. So yeah, all in all, I think both teams shake hands on a point and say, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way of saying it. It doesn't sound like it was quite as violent. I mean, not violent. I don't think there was really any violence last time, but it was definitely very heated. Lots of antagonising on the pitch with certain players. It doesn't sound like it was too bad. I mean, Caio Jorge probably just a bit frustrated there that they weren't able to get the win when they're in such a good position, and it would have been a really big result for them. That would have taken them up to second. So probably just a bit of frustration. And the Hulk, I think, you know, he can say that right now. It's easy to say if you're happy with a point, isn't it? I think he's probably been guilty as anybody sometimes at goading the fans and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? If you get the result you want, you're able to kind of do a bit of pontification and pretend that you're kind of whiter than white, really. But it's probably not the truth. But yeah, anything else you wanted to add about it?
Well, I mean, Cruizero are unbeaten in 7, James, now, and you know, in all competitions, and I think you know, Hardim has to be starting to. Like you said, we started to we've ignored them a little bit on the pod, you know, with this season so far. But I think it's about time we start to sort of sit up and say, hey, these are maybe, you know, proper challengers now. You know, and getting that way, you know, like I said, the table is starting to take a little bit of shape. So let's see what happens in the future. Galo themselves putting together a nice little run now, 4 unbeaten. They've won 3 of those in all competitions. So they'll be feeling a little bit better about themselves than, you know, how they started the season. That is for sure.
Yeah, Cruzeiro quietly did some great business in the summer, and I saw Yannick Balassi scored. I think it was after we did the last show in the Copa Sudamericana. I think they're in, aren't they?
He did. Yeah,
Balassi hasn't been playing a lot, but he did get on the score sheet, and yeah, they've quietly put together a really good team. And yeah, Hardim, as you said there, he's really quietly hit the ground running. And that's not easy to do as a foreign coach coming over for the first time. So you've got to really respect that job that he's doing there. And I think it's probably a bit early to say that maybe title challenges and the gap to Palmerias, as we're going to talk about now, is still 5 points. it's still a sizable gap after 9 games, but it can easily be cut down as well. So, yeah. I mean, just putting your neck out there, do you think the title challenges? I'm going to just double check where you had them at the start of the season.
Yeah, have a look, James, because I know we spoke about them when we spoke about them on the build-up shows. That they have done some good business in the in the winter window, and the Hardim he's an experienced manager in Europe as well. He's done well, didn't he, in France before with Monaco? So he's an experienced coach at a higher, no disrespect to the Brazilian Serie A, obviously, but it's of a higher level, probably you would say Liga, the French Liga. So yeah, I think they'll be up there, definitely. Yeah, I think they will. But I think I did tip them to be up there, though, if I remember correctly.
You had them in 6th.
Well, yeah, that's not too bad. I think they'll probably finish higher than that, maybe, though, personally now.
Yeah, maybe they are only 2 points ahead of Bahia, who are in 6th. So it's still very, very early days. Gallo you had in 3rd, incidentally. So still time for that to come true as well. But they are looking like, I mean, if they're better than last season, which won't be that difficult, then, that's okay at this point, really. Then I don't think they'll have any designs on winning the title. I think that's probably already gone for them just about. So maybe a focus on the Cups, get back in the Libertadores and go from there. Right, Josh, thank you very much. That's a good rundown of the Belo Horizonte derby. And just lastly, as a Galo fan, what's your take? Just from a fan perspective, there, frustrated or a good point?
I'd say good point. Cruizero started well. Like I said, they're unbeaten in 6 going towards this game. We're putting together a nice little run of it ourselves. And yeah, I'd take a point all day long. It's an away game. Get them back to our place and see what happens next time. But yeah, no, I'm quite happy with that, really. We've not been in good form, and they're starting to put together a little bit of form now, and it's good to see they start to be a little bit more hard to beat, really, now, because it wasn't a good start of the season, and hopefully we can push up the table and look towards the the continental qualifications this time, and a good league finish at that, really.
Yeah, let's see all to play for Galo. Corinthians next looks another big game for them. Right, so I was looking at another slight kind of a derby. I don't think it really is classed as a proper Sao Paulo derby, but it is a Rebel Bragantino who are just outside Sao Paulo in Bragança, and Palmeiras obviously need no introduction. And yeah, this was the reason I chose it was obviously it was a really big game at the top of the table. There were 2 points separating these two teams heading into the game. I felt that probably at home, Bragantino could maybe do a little bit of damage for Palmeiras. And we know how good Seabra has been in the season so far. And they would have gone into that very, very confident. In the end, George, the confidence showed pretty early on. They scored a very nice early goal. Early, it was 25 minutes or so with Gabriel. Nice finish, a layoff from Lucas Barbosa, who's actually been doing pretty well. And we obviously followed him last year at Juventude, and he got his move to Red Bull, and he's been doing all right. This was a nice little layoff and a really tidy finish to put them 1-0 up. And from there, they were just, very, very good, as they have been for the whole season so far. They held out on Palmeiras. They looked like they might be able to just kind of frustrate them. It wasn't all one-way traffic. It was pretty much ebb and flow. Palmeiras probably just shaded it, but it wasn't like they were knocking the door down. Bragantino, by the looks of it, were quite comfortable, really. And it lasted all the way up until about 20 minutes from the end. And Chakaria popped up and got an equaliser. The centre-back got a header. Made it 1-1, 20 minutes to go, and then just a sucker punch 6 minutes later, Maurizio, who actually hasn't played an awful lot. I remember him signing from Inter last year, and he's been a bit of a bit player. He's only 23, a mustachioed fella, but he's doing all right. He's got 7 goals this season. He did well in the Paulista in pre-season, and yeah, he popped up with a really important strike. It was a bit deflected, a bit bobbled, but it still went into 12 minutes to go. Palmeiras 2-1 up, and that's how it finished. So an absolutely massive win for Palmeiras against such a tricky and well-drilled and confident opposition. And it took them, as I said, to the top of the table, 22 points, 4 cleared of Flamengo, who dropped points again George. So Palmeiras, this was a really, really big result for them. And the form that they're in at the minute, I mean, it doesn't feel like they've really got out of second gear, but they've won 13 of the last 14 matches in all competitions. The only loss of the whole season, which is by now 16 games, I think, was in all comps, was against Bahia, 1-0 loss in April a few weeks back. Other than that, they've been perfect. They've literally, 13 out of 14 across all competitions. They've played the Sao Paulo derby. They played Rebel Bragantino. They played Corinthians. They went to Inter and won. They went to Fortaleza and won, which nobody had done for a long, long time up until then. So they're all narrow victories. They're not really blowing anybody away, but they're just quietly getting the job done in really kind of efficient fashion, not clicking into full gear. Estevao managed an assist in this one. I know you were calling him to do a bit more. We didn't see Vitor Roque on the score sheet. But yeah, what can you say, George? Palmeiras are marching on, and in my opinion, they are looking. I don't think they'll let go of that top position now. I think they'll stay there for the rest of the season.
Well, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Like you said, Flamengo, James, dropped points in the Rio derby. They'll be disappointed with that, won't they? 0-0 at that as well. And Palmeiras, yeah, like you said, they've been perfect. Won 6 in a row. That Gabriel goal for RB, that was the first goal James had conceded in 5 games, all clean sheets in all competitions up until that point, since the defeat at home to Bahia, end of April. So it's looking a bit ominous. What I would say, James, is let's wait and see. They've got to go to America and contest the Club World Cup, which is going to be interesting to see how it's going to affect their league form and how much weight they put into it. Obviously, the European sides, they've finished their seasons. It doesn't matter to them so much. It holds no weight to their season. Whereas the Brazilian sides, I know Flamengo are there, Fluminense are there as well, aren't they? I think there's one more potentially as well. But it's going to be interesting to see how these fare. Definitely Palmeiras, will it loosen their grip on the top of the table? Let's wait and see. And I was calling for more from Estevao. He still gets assists. He's assisting goals. I don't think he's scored a goal yet this season. And he's turning out for Palmeiras in the Club World Cup, not for Chelsea. I think he signs after it's finished in sort of mid-July. So let's see. Just be interesting how it affects them. They've got 2 league games before that. They do go to America. One is a massive looking one. Is actually this coming weekend, isn't it? They are at home to Flamengo. So that's an early 6-pointer, isn't it? And then they've got 2 more. They face Cruizero and then they face Juventude before they fly out to America. And Porto is their first one on the 15th of June.
Yeah, Flamengo and Cruzeiro, before they go away to America, will probably determine quite a lot, really, how they're doing. If they get wins in those, they're second and third at the moment. So certainly if they manage to beat Flamengo at the weekend, that'll put 7 points between them and Flamengo, which obviously is not unassailable, but it's a really good lead at this stage. And of course, we don't know how it will affect. It's a brand new tournament. It's the first time it's ever happened. And in my opinion, it's pretty exciting, although I do worry about how it's going to affect the players. Brazilian players are probably a little more fresh, given they've only just started the season, and other clubs who are in the middle of the season. For English clubs, European clubs, it is at the end of a long season, and you do wonder how it will affect the season going into that. But as a spectacle, George, it's fantastic to look forward to. We get Palmeiras against Porto, like you said there. That's a great game. It's great to see these kind of Brazilian sides match up against European opposition. Botafogo are the other team there, and they've got a mouth-watering group with Atletico Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, and then Seattle Sounders. So Paris Saint-Germain, who could perhaps be European champions at that time, will be against Fogo. And then Flamengo, of course, are playing Chelsea. They're playing Esperance and Lyon as well. And then you've got Flu against Borussia Dortmund, Mamelodi Sundowns, and Ulsan HD. So, I mean, if anybody who can say where they're from, then I applaud you with that. But I don't know personally.
Well, you're going to have to applaud me, James, because
You've just Googled it, haven't you? So.
No. Well, Sundowners are South African, and Ulsan HD are South Korean.
Wow.
So there's some. I was asking you, wasn't it, James? What's the prerequisite to get into this tournament? And I have absolutely no idea. It just seems like a bit of a mismatch of a lot of different countries, teams. Seattle Sounders is a really strange one. Auckland City FC from New Zealand is a really odd inclusion, and that's an enormous group with Bayern Munich, Benfica, and Boca Juniors. So, yeah, it's an exciting concept, but I do wonder how it's going to affect the Brazilian sides, really.
Yeah, we just don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It is a funny one. I mean, there is a complicated structure for how teams are involved, but you look at why Porto, Benfica, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No,
and then I think it's basically no country can have more than two sides, and it is based on the Champions League coefficient. Basically, it's based on the Continental Cup, like a coefficient, essentially, I think. And no team, I think, can have more than two representatives. It's something along those lines. No country can have more than two. So otherwise, because Liverpool perhaps should be there, but you think Chelsea won the Champions League 21, City won it in 23. So they're the two English latest winners. But for the likes of Porto, Benfica, Inter, Inter in the final this time. But I think it's partly based on if you're in the final as well. Juventus obviously haven't been in the final for a long time. So it's a bit of a mixture of things. But yeah, it'd be very, very interesting to see how it affects them. But like I said, I think Palmeiras are, especially if they beat Flamengo, that's an enormous game, but I do think they're looking very good. Like you said, George, very defensively solid, and they've got gears to go up. And Estevao, I think maybe it's to their benefit in a little way that he isn't being quite so influential, in the fact that obviously he will leave. These will be his last few games in Brazil before the Club World Cup and then before that move to Chelsea. So if he's not quite as influential and they're still winning games, that to me suggests they can probably do without him. Rather than last year where he really was the main man and he really dragged them to a second place finish, especially at the end of the season. So, maybe they won't miss him quite as much as it initially looked like they would do. So anyway, Palmeiras march on to the top of the table. George, let's us march on as well through talking Brazil ball, and let's reach the player of the round. What a performance!
Yeah, 5-star. Yeah, exactly. But I don't think James, there weren't a great deal of candidates for this. To be quite honest, it was another low score, and I think it was 19 goals in all in this round of fixtures. There wasn't a great deal of goals. There wasn't a great deal of anything really, and it had to go to one man and one man only, really, and that was Mr. Vegetti of Vasco, Pablo Vegetti, who's making me eat my words with every single game. He's got 7 goals, James, in 8, and he's at the age of 36, just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, he's really, really started the season very, very well, and he's, we're often seeing Vegetti. He is a certain type of striker. He likes this kind of penalty box finish, 6-yard box finish. Even he's a bit of a poacher. And these two were 2 goals. They're almost identical, just from the opposite, like a mirror image, basically, weren't they? Ball slid across, and he kind of slides in himself and finishes it. This was. He was, like you said, the only candidate. Really, there was nobody else who really. Had even more than one goal involvement at all. No, nobody with a goal and an assist, and certainly nobody with 2 goals. So, it had to be Vegetti. And we've got to talk about Fernando Diniz, George. We haven't really spoke about Diniz's Vasco just yet. This was, I think, his second game in charge?
I think this was actually his first Brazilian game. And incidentally, we talked about the cup. It has been happening in the cup. They did get through in the Copa do Brasil on Tuesday evening. They beat second second division Serie A B side Opriano Ferrovi Rio on penalties.
Yeah, they did. So, I mean, this was a really important win, though, before that, this Fortaleza win. Obviously, Fortaleza have been in very mixed form themselves, but had that massive win the week before at Juventude, which we talked about. But Vasco, I mean, you can't say he'd be under pressure, Diniz, with his first league game, but in terms of Vasco, they lost 3 in a row. They were slipping towards, I mean, they were in the relegation zone before this game. They are now out of it. It's a big win for Diniz, and yeah, Vegetti's come up trumps for him, and he's going to have to rely on him, isn't he, for those goals?
Oh, yeah. And like I said, at 36, he's still the main man, it seems. 17 goals in all competitions already, James. He got 22 in all last season. He's just on fire. I mean, and he like I said, he's such a poacher. Those 2 goals, like you said, both pretty much identical. You know, at the back stick, just sliding in, open net basically, and they're in. You know, and he's there and he's scoring the goals. And yeah, he's the man. They need to hang his hat on. You know, Diniz needs to hang his hat on him. Really, your boy Phil Coutinho got himself in trouble. He got himself sent off halfway through the second half. But you know, they're already well on the way to winning the game. James, they were already 2-0 up at that stage, and Fortaleza, their man was sent off as well. Marino was sent off, I think in the same incident in that game. So yeah, Diniz under a little bit of pressure because Vasco weren't doing so well, but the 2 wins in a row, including the cup win, will do them the world of good, and hopefully they can, you know, start to march on up the table and prove me wrong, because I did have them down as relegation candidates. That still might happen, but you know, you'd have fancied Diniz to at least steer them away from that for sure.
Yeah, you'd fancy it. I mean, the table is quite condensed, really. Still at this stage, a couple of wins, and you're all of a sudden you are looking a bit better. And yeah, Vasco will hope that's the case. One player who could be key as well as Vegetti. I mean, Vegetti really is a very consistent goal scorer. I mean, you look at his record since he joined the league. In terms of league goals, he got 10, then he got 12, and now he's on 7 already. So you're going to get double figures from him, and that's important for a side who maybe lower down the table. But yeah, another player who Diniz is seemingly taken a shine to is Ryan, who we have spoken about quite a lot before. He hasn't really been kind of doing a lot as a young player with a big reputation, but Diniz is putting faith in him. He started him in all 3 games that he's been in charge of so far. Obviously, his first one was in that Copa Sudamericana against Lanús, which he did lose, but Ryan actually scored the goal in the cup game that you referred to there. And yeah, he's someone who Diniz has been talking up, saying he's a rare talent. He's a special player who can kind of reach the top echelon of Brazilian players. So if they can get Ryan going, if Diniz can get the best out of him, he's another potentially special player. I mean, on the flip side, that you may see him get a summer move. I know there's been links obviously to European sides, but we need to see a bit more from him. And that cup game's a good start to that, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is, James. And like I said, Diniz is putting him in the shop window a little bit more almost, you know, for European sides to have a look at him. So I don't think he didn't really have that much of a go at it last season. Well, he did actually. He played quite a number of games in Serie A. He was quite quiet with his goals involvement. He's done better already than he did last season this time round. So, you know, Diniz putting all his faith in him. You know, he's still young. He's only 18. If he is going to get a summer move to a European team, you know, he'll probably turn 19 by the time next season rolls around. His birthday comes in early August. So, yeah, he's certainly a player to keep an eye on. But he's certainly a player that we've known for a little while now, since we started, really, James. And I know Ryan has been involved in talks with your team as well, hasn't he, on the odd occasion. And, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he goes on from here. But it is a good start, like you said. He wasn't involved in the penalty shootout, incidentally. Vegetti was. He scored his. He was first up.
Of course he did, yeah. Reliable goal scorer. I mean, so that's Vasco, a very good result for them. I mean, on the flip side, there's a losing team, and that's Fortaleza. And unfortunately, things got worse for Fortaleza this week, George, because they were knocked out of the Copa do Brazil by third-tier side Retro FC, which is a great name for a club. I might have to keep an eye out for them. Retro FC, it just sounds like a pub team or something, but they did beat them. I think it was on penalties in the end, and Voivoda and his team have been slammed in the media, saying it's a shameful performance, a disgraceful result, and all this. And it feels like Voivoda's that could be the one that really starts to turn it now, because obviously they had such a good season last year. They didn't start well, but they got that big win against Juventude. They felt like they might have turned a corner, but the Vasco defeat there, coupled with that cup defeat, and things could turn nasty, really, couldn't they, quite quickly?
Well, they really could, James. I mean, again, it's those two big wins, didn't they? 4-0, then 5-0 in the league, one in the Lib and one in the league, and then they drew 0-0 in the Libertadores, and now they've lost 3-0, and now they've lost to a third division side. It doesn't matter how you lose to a third division side. No disrespect to Retro FC, but it's third division side. As a top division side, you should be beating them, regardless whether it's on penalties or not. You should be beating them. The men we talked about last week, I think, James, Lucero missed his penalty in the shootout, and Kervin Andrade also missed his in the shootout. They lost 4-1 in the shootout. It was 1-1 and 2-2 on aggregate in the end. It was at the Castelao as well. So that's a real great result for Retro FC. One that I'm sure they'll live off for some time. And why not? Absolutely fantastic. But Voivoda, under pressure. He's under pressure, James. They play Cruizero on Monday. If they don't win this, you've got to say people are going to start to really ramp the pressure up on him. Given that cup result, you can easily forget about a cup result. But if you're on a bad run of form, it starts to snowball then, and you think, hang on, wait, he lost to a third division team. And then people say, actually, well, they've not won now for a few. Is he under pressure? I think he is. They're sitting, just a point above the relegation zone. I know it is tight in the table, but still, it's not been a good start for them at all.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, Retro FC were only formed in 2016, so 9 years ago. That's a real embarrassment for Fortaleza, and it will be interesting to see if Voivoda can bounce back. They've got Cruzeiro next at Castelao, so that's not an easy one, but if they can get a result there, you might be able to stem the bleeding. Anyway, George, let's move on to the young player of the round, because there were similarly few candidates for this one as well. We spoke about Estevao there, who got an assist for Palmeiras, but there was thankfully a young man who came through, and he did so for my boys Inter, and they needed him as well. He came through with a late equaliser against Mirassol. We know Inter haven't been in the best form, and this would have been a shock defeat at home for them. But up stepped Matthias, George, a 18-year-old striker who was playing, I think, a handful of games before for Inter. Ricardo Matthias, 11 games. This was his 11th game, 3 goals already. So this was his 3rd goal. Pretty decent, but it was really well taken, equaliser, wasn't it? 77 minutes, and he stepped up, took the ball nicely out of the air, plucked it down, and calmly slotted past the goalkeeper.
Yeah, it was a lovely little goal, wasn't it, James? And I'm going to go as far, James, as saying he saved Roger Mercado his job in a sense. And he scored this equaliser, which was nicely taken. He led the line again for 86 minutes of this game, and to do that as a 18-year-old with not much experience is quite impressive. The reason why I say he saved his job, he scored as well in Uruguay in the week in the Libertadores game against Nacional. He scored dead on half time in that game. They won it 2-0 in the end, but he again led the line as part of a 4-3-3 in this game as well. So it's a little bit of a gem uncovered at a real crucial time for Roger Mercado when he's coming under a little bit of pressure. And fair play to the boy. He's what a moment, what a few moments for him. And he's he can hopefully move on and see what he can come up with in his career and moving forward into the season. But he's definitely a new name to watch out for us.
Yeah, Ricardo Matthias. a very big goal for him against Nacional, and it was a big win for Inter, as you mentioned, with Mercado has been under pressure, that massive defeat to Botafogo last time out. But the win over Nacional put them in a decent position in the Libertadores. They played Bahia as a shootout, actually, for the second, they could still finish top of the league, but they do play Bahia in the last match day of that. That's at home as well, so they're 1 point ahead of them currently in second place in the 4-team table. So yeah, it was a big result. And this one, again, obviously, it's not a great result. Mirasol, as we know, have made themselves very difficult to beat. And, they will beat better teams. I mean, not better teams than Inter, but they will beat some good teams throughout the season. It's not a given that you can turn up and beat Mirasol for sure. But still, it's not a great result to get a point from that from Mercado. We would have wanted to follow up the win over Nacional with another win. And as it happens, they're still kind of stuck in kind of lower half of the table, really. And that's not good enough for them. It never will be. The 15th at the minute. And, you can rely on these young players all you want. We saw last year, didn't we? With Kawa Elias, who started to pop up probably a bit later in the season, but got those crucial goals. You don't really want to be relying on such a young player. In my opinion, and they do have forwards, so the likes of Borre, Valencia, obviously very experienced players, but Valencia's injured at the moment, so they had to rely on him, and he's come up well for them. So we'll see if he keeps his place in the team. I've got a feeling he might not do, but if they can manage him through it and not place too much expectation on him, then he could be a special talent.
Well, this is it. You've just not going to put too much pressure on him. He's come on. He scored a couple of goals in his first couple of starts, really, the season, and you've just got to think, right? Don't put too much pressure on him, because, like I said, they do have forward players. They do have forward players that they can lean back on. That are experienced players at this level as well. So to hang it all on him, it seems a little bit unfair. But also, if he's scoring goals, then keep him in the team. I mean, they do. I think they do play. They play tonight, don't they? Actually, in the cup, they take a lead, 1-0 lead to Maracana, don't they? And so he might play in this one. It'll be interesting to see. A cup game might not hold as much weight for Mercado as the league games. So it'll be interesting to see if he does keep his place for the cup. In terms of the league, yeah, they've got more experienced players. That they do really need to start progressing to Inter. Like you said, they won't be happy with how the season's kind of going so far. And Mercado is really coming under pressure. But like I said, Mirasol, you can't take them as you're going to win this game at all. They've started really impressively. And I'm very, very impressed with them, James, Mirasol.
Yeah, they've done well. I mean, just going on back to Matthias just for a second, Mercado has recognised his qualities, that he's a very talented boy, but he lacked regularity and greater concentration in training to improve every day. About 20 days ago, he recovered from a knee injury, and he was already more competitive in training. The only recommendation is that he has a higher level of competition in training. So, yeah, Mercado impressed, obviously. He's got a signature celebration already as well, Matthias. He does like a fingers around the eyes, like there's a Batman mask, calls it. So that's always a good one to see. But, yeah, Mirasol, again, very impressive result for them. They don't win many, but they like I said, they have made themselves difficult to beat, and this was an impressive win for them. An impressive point for them. They would have liked to have perhaps held on, but at this stage of the season, 12th in the table, 11 points. Yeah, you can't really argue with that too much.
Yeah, not at all, James. They put a little good run together. Only one defeat in the last kind of 6. Only one defeat in the last 8, to be fair, in the Brasileirão. They're really, very, very hard to beat. The games have lost have been very, very tight games, and I think they're onto something good here. I think, and I think if they can keep it up, which is a big kind of if, really, we're only 9 games in, then they could be achieving something very special at the end of the season under Rafael Gunayes, he's definitely impressed me. And it was a bit of a scrap, the goal, early goal, wasn't it, in this one? But, you know, they all count, don't they? And, you know, and I'm sure if they continue to score scrappy goals and get points, nobody's going to be complaining of, you know, in the Mirasol camp. So they'll be very happy with how they're doing at the moment, even though they are only 2 points above the relegation zone, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it can change quickly, but for the first ever Serie A season in history, they're making a really good go of it immediately. For Inter, Mercado does need to be better, but yeah, I don't think they need to press the panic button just yet. But they've got Sport Recife next. Any kind of poor result in that, and that will put pressure on them again. But let's see how that ends up. Okay, George, let's move on then to the goal of the round. There were a couple of contenders, perhaps a couple to mention that we've already mentioned. Well, one of them we already mentioned, the Gabriel goal for Bragantino was a really nicely hit goal outside of the area, low finish. Another one that was in contention for sure was Moreira for Vasco, and that was a lovely goal, to be fair, wasn't it? Nice give and go, and bent well into the corner. I think it came off the post in the end as well, put Vasco into the lead. But we didn't go for either of those in the end, did we, George? You went for this one, and it was for Ceará, who, I mean, we talk about Mirasol having a good start to the season. Ceará have blown them out the water. They're currently 5th in the table. They got another win, George, 2-0 this time against Sport Recife. And Munye came up with a nicely hit volley to claim the goal of the week, didn't he?
Yeah, I think there wasn't a great deal. Again, there weren't a great deal of goals really in this round of fixtures, James. There weren't no real standouts. There were a couple of nice finishes, but it was very much of a muchness. You know, this week to sort of pick it. In the end, I went for Mugni. Sorry, it was a nice hit finish. It was from a long throw in. The fellow launched it into the box. Sport Recife defender headed it out. He just hit it right-footed, straight, low volley into the bottom corner. You know, keeper no chance really. It set them on the way. Only the 9th minute of the game. It set them on the way to a comfortable win over a team, like I said, who at the top of the episode here, that they just looked down and dead already, to be quite honest. And Antonio Galeno, he that was a nice goal as well. He wrapped it up with a well struck goal in the second half to round them off with a 2-0 win. So yeah, like you said, we talk about Mirasol, but you've got to talk about Ceará. They're doing an incredible job. Mugni himself, an Argentine player, much travelled, 33 now. He is Lucas Mugni. And he's had experience as well in the Brasileirão before with Bahia. He did actually play for Sport Recife as well, and he at Flamengo as well. He played quite a number of games as well. And he has had also European experience, a short time in Spain and also in Turkey as well for a short time. So he's much travelled around South America as well. He was actually called up to the Argentine full team. He is a youth international for Argentina. He was called up to the full squad in 2012 by the manager, who was a former Leeds player, but his name has escaped me just now. But he didn't actually get a cap in this game, but he was called up to the international stage. So it was very much well thought of at one stage. I mean, that was, 15 years ago now, but, a young player then, obviously had, looked to have something.
I don't think he ever played in Spain, did he?
Yeah, he never played any games, but from what I can see, he did have a short time with Rayo Major Honda, which I don't know where they are actually, what division they play in currently, but I think it's a very low level in Spain. But he went from there. He went from Flamengo. I think he went from Flamengo there. Then he went on to Everton CD in Chile. So, yeah, he wasn't there. He was only there for a few months, didn't play any games in Spain.
Yeah, now he's back in Brazil, been there for a while. Was a nicely taken goal by Lucas Mugni. Number 100 as well he's taken, so that's an interesting one.
Well, this is something I was looking up, James. He actually wears the number 10, so I don't know where the 100 has come from, but it looks like he does wear the number 10.
Well, there you go. Potentially. Well, he does what he doesn't he? What's his name? Lucas Mugni or Mugna?
Oh, yeah, sorry you're laughing. I don't. Who knows?
It's just like you said it like a second before, Mugni, and then like 2 seconds later you say Mugni. Like
I don't know. Do I? You know. They have to. You'd have to ask him how to pronounce it properly.
Maybe we'll get him on the show at one stage. Until then, we'll just call him Mugni. I don't know. Anyway, he gets to go to the round. It was a good finish. Well done to him, and well done to Ciara. Leo Conde really is flying there, fifth in the table. 7 points off Palmerias, so it's still a bit of a gap to the top, which I'm sure the fans will be looking at, dreaming. The 3 points off Flamengo in second, which is very, very doable. They've got a game against Galo next time at Castelao again, which we do talk about a lot as a bit of a fortress. And again, I think they probably are unbeaten at home so far this season in the league anyway. So no, they lost to Palmeiras, so that's that gone already. But that was in the cup actually. So
yeah, they do. They face off it's tonight. The second leg is away in Palmeiras. They've lost 1-0 in the first leg, so they'll be looking to make a shock in that. They'll be well up for that game this evening, so that'll be interesting to see how that one pans out.
Yeah, they are doing brilliantly. It's hard to overstate that. We thought they might do okay at the start of the season, but you look at the other two promoted teams, and we haven't talked about Santos on this episode, but they lost again, George, 1-0 to Corinthians. They're still in the relegation zone, only one win so far. And Sport Recife, who obviously lost this one, and it feels like they're resigned to going down already, doesn't it? I don't know what they can do to change that. They've obviously changed the manager already, Antonio Oliveira, who I think is robbing a living a little bit. I don't see how they get out of this.
No, Sport Recife, James, like I said, they're pretty down already. 2 points from 9 games. If you keep going like that, what do you average at, like 6 or 7 points? It's just ridiculous. No goals, no wins yet. We're going into the double figures, like I said at the top. They've got Inter at home on Sunday. 10 games, no wins potentially. Oliveira, like you said, it doesn't matter who's in charge of them. They've already sacked one manager. They'll sack him soon, and it doesn't really matter, does it? They're going down already. It's a real shame to see a team just lie down and take the punishment, really. But they might not do. We're still early on in the season. Cuiabá, like we said, started really badly last time. They did end up going down, but they did end up putting up a little bit of a fight. But for me at the moment, just seems like, and I was reading I was watching the highlights of the Ciara game, and I think somebody in the comments were like, how on earth, I think it was Corinthians or something, how on earth did Corinthians draw with this team? And that just sums it up. What the rest of the fan bases are thinking of that team is just, how on earth have we lost or drawn with this team? It's one of them. So, I think the sooner they get down, the better, to be fair, at this rate.
Yeah, they're certainly not really adding anything to the division this time, and we thought they might do. They still might, like you said, but they will get that win at some point. I'm sure they will, but it has been a long time coming for them already. Right, George, that rounds up the awards. That rounds up the match week then, match day 9. Like you said, not the most exciting one maybe, but still lots to look back at. So why don't you let us know what we've got to look forward to in match day 10 now? Hopefully a bit more action.
Yeah, hopefully, James. I think it starts. We know that Brazil is famous for messing around the fixtures. This is where it starts to get a little bit messy. So there's only 9 fixtures this week. Ciara and Botafogo are the 2 teams that aren't playing, but the fixture list runs as follows. On Saturday the 24th of May, Fluminense against Vasco. and Sao Paulo host Mirassol, all at 10:30 kickoff in the UK. Sunday the 25th of May, Galo against Corinthians is a 1 a.m. kickoff. Gremio against Bahia. Palmeiras face Flamengo, Sport Recife, an interface-off, and Vitória against Santos. Then May the 26th, Fortaleza host Cruizero in 12:30 midnight kickoff. And then Tuesday the 27th of May, RB Bragantino, they host Juventude.
There is a game actually. You missed out that one. You said they didn't play. Botafogo plays Ceará actually on Thursday at midnight.
Oh.
So you've missed that one off there. But they do play each other. So that's the final game of the round. So just before we do the show, probably on Thursday, that'll be the last one in very early hours of Thursday morning. So what you're looking at for there, George, for your game of the round?
Well, I'm not sure really, James. I think there's not really a great one that sort of slaps you in the. Well, there is one actually. I mean, I must admit, but other than the said one, which I might give you actually if you want to.
Yeah, fine, yeah.
You know, which is Palmeiras against Flamengo. That one's sort of immediately. That's the game of the. Could be the game of the season, couldn't it? Potentially an early 6-point, like we said earlier, but. Yeah, I think other than that, it's all a bit of a muchness. There isn't anything going on really at the bottom. We focused on the bottom a little bit recently. There is Vitória against Santos, which looks like a sort of relegation kind of 6-pointer maybe. But I'm going to go with Fluminense and Vasco because I think we haven't really touched on Flu a great deal yet this season. Vasco with Denise again. Let's see if he can continue that little rise up the table that they've started, with those couple of games, winning games. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Flu Vasco.
Yeah, it is, of course, a Rio derby as well, that one.
Yeah.
And it is, of course, Denise back at his old team as well. So, there are reasons to be looking at that one, definitely. And like I said, Flu have quietly been going about the business. Got a draw this time away. Juventude, probably not the best result, but they're in a decent kind of position. But Vasco will go quite close behind them if they win that one. So yeah, that's a good one. I'll do, as you mentioned there, Palmeiras against Flamengo. It's a massive game. It's really the battle of the two biggest clubs in Brazil, really. And yet it's a really important one, especially for Flamengo. Palmeiras at home will really fancy the chance to go 7 points clear, and although it wouldn't be fatal, it would be massive at this stage of the season. So that's one I think Palmeiras will win, and I do think that they, like I said, I don't think they'll ever let go of that top spot, but we'll see how that goes. Right, George, why don't you let us know, run down the table and see how that leaves the standings ahead of all those games?
Yeah, again, it would be a pleasure of mine to do so, James. And it goes as follows. So Palmeiras are top on 22 points. There is second is Flamengo on 18. Third, Cruizero on 17. Fourth, RB Bragantino on 17. Fifth is Ceará on 15. Sixth, Bahia on 15. Seventh is Flu on 14. Eighth, Corinthians on 13. Galo are 9th on 13. 10th is Fogo on 12. Sao Paulo 11th on 12. 12th is Mirassol on 11. 13th, Vasco on 10. 10 points in 14th is Fortaleza. 15th, Inter on 10. 16th, Vitória on 9. Into the relegation zone, James, Gremio on 9. 18th is Juventude on 8. 19th is Santos on 5. And propping up the table, last as usual, no wins still, Sport Recife on 2 points.
Yeah, that's absolutely the way it looks at the moment. Some plenty of teams with work to do. Others, it's looking good. It's all very close still. And after 10, 12, 13, 14 games, it starts to even out a little bit and shake out to what we might expect it to look like throughout the rest of the season. But it's still early. But yeah, another hopefully some more goals this time, Georgia, and a bit more to get into. But it's a shame that Belo Horizonte derby was 0-0, really, because that would have been a great kind of a great kind of marker for the week, but it didn't really happen. But anyway, it's been a good show, been a good week, and lots of cup action still to come, lots of league action to come then as well. And before we know it, we'll be into that Club World Cup in June.
Absolutely, James. Yeah, there's plenty to go on, plenty to look forward to. And like I say, hopefully a bit more goals next week. But we'll wait and see. But yeah, it's been a good show. And what I'll say to everybody is a deuce. We'll hopefully have some more jingles next week.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
A deuce.
Adios.
Make you feel so right. Summer vibes, we're dancing in the heat.